This conference will now be recorded.
May I go do that right now? Fix the clock.
So we have members present. We have Commissioner Lawton,
Here.
Commissioner Head,
Here.
Commissioner Lovendahl,
Here.
Commissioner Berndt,
Here.
and Commissioner Thielen. Approval of the October 3rd minutes. Do we have any discussion on the minutes? Any additions or corrections?
Commissioner Lovendahl had already emailed me with 2 corrections. First off, the date at the top of the minutes is incorrect. It should be October 3rd, and it is currently listed as, I believe, September 7th. And then additionally, the town of Sutherland is misspelled and needs to be corrected. And that is correct, correct?
That's
Awesome.
absolutely right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Then I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Commissioner Lovendahl,
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
Commissioner Head, second.
Commissioner Head. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. Commissioner Berndt,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawton,
Yes.
Commissioner Lovendahl,
Yes.
Commissioner Head,
Yes.
Commissioner Thielen is yes. Unanimous pass. Chair comments. I don't think I have anything to say at this time, except welcome and thank you for your service. Public comments on agenda items only. Does anyone in the public or attending the meeting online have any comments on any of the agenda items, except for the public hearing, which will have its own set of comments?
Is that on the RV park?
Yes.
Yes, so the RV park will be its own part of the meeting, which will be coming right up. So hang on for that.
You'll be explaining it.
So no other public comments. Okay, then number 5 is public hearings. This is a continuation of DOC 2302 Clark proposed RV park at 510 Madrona. And we have materials. This is a continuation of a meeting that has been going on for a couple times. And I need to read a little script
Yeah,
here.
that'll be good because we have a new.
So I'm Greg Thielen. I'm the chair of the Port Orford Planning Commission. We were all planning commissioners are all volunteers appointed by the Port Orford City Council. We can't vary from or change the law that's on the books as a part of this hearing. We're required to base our decisions on the law that exists when the application was filed. We are all to be unbiased. Do any members of the Planning Commission have any potential conflicts, such as family, financial, or business relationship with any of the applicants or with regard to the land in question? Commissioner Head.
Yeah, Commissioner Head, I'm declaring my personal friendship with Christopher Kinney again. But we have not spoken since I found out that he was the agent for this hearing.
Okay, thank you. Have any planning commissioners discussed the application with any of the applicants or have an independent knowledge of the facts? No. Let's see. How to testify and participate. Oregon statute states that failure to raise an issue at the hearing, either in person or by letter, or to provide statements, precludes an appeal to a higher judicial authority on that issue. So if you have anything to say, this is the time to say it. Citizens may provide verbal testimony via the internet or here in the meeting itself. So first, we're going to have a staff report. Joseph's going to give a staff report. I'm just going to tell what's going to happen here. And just summarize, if you can just summarize the staff report. Then proponents or the applicants will testify first, will come up to the microphone and speak. And anyone else in favor of the application can testify then. After that, the opponents can testify again. If there is any opposition, or if there's questions, the applicant can respond to them at the end of the testimony. The Planning Commission, we commissioners may ask the staff and those who testify questions throughout the hearing until the record closes. If any new information is presented, everyone gets a chance to respond to the new information. The proponent or the applicant gets the last word. They speak last. Then I will close the meeting after we've had all the testimony and questioning, and the Planning Commission will deliberate about what to do with the application. During the deliberations, the Planning Commission may reopen the public portion of the hearing if necessary to receive additional evidence before making a decision. If the decision body wants to continue the discussion or the public hearing to another meeting, the meeting can be carried over to a specific date. Okay, so that's how it's going to work. And I'm going to go ahead and open this. Yes, Crystal.
Well, you forgot, I am going to do the exhibit, intake of the exhibits before the staff report.
Thank you. Before the staff report, Crystal is going to give some exhibit information. So I'm going to go ahead and open this hearing now. It's 3:30. Thank you for setting the clock. 3:37. Go ahead, Crystal.
Okay, I just want to list off the exhibits. In case this goes somewhere else, we will need this information. So Exhibit A, and these are not the same numbers that you have on your attachments, just because they need to be in a certain order. So Exhibit A is the staff report dated August 29th. That was the first staff report, which also includes the public notice in it. Exhibit B is the application, including the narrative, packet of engineered drawings, etc., submitted by the applicant, and it was determined complete July 18th, 2023. Following that, we had the Planning Commission meeting and hearing of October 3rd, which was continued to November 7th. We did have some testimony at that, which we have included in the packet tonight. There was no discussion. Tonight is the Planning Commission meeting and public hearing of November 7th, and the staff report addendum is included as Exhibit C. And this also includes two forms. One is the timeline extension waiver form, waives from the 120-day limit. And the other one is the applicant's agreement to pay for professional services. We also have Exhibit D, which is the revised application dated October 2023 by the applicant's engineers, includes narrative, packet of engineered drawings submitted by, and a packet of engineered drawings submitted by the applicant. We have Exhibit E, which is oral testimony from Tim Leslie provided September 5th, 2023 and October 3rd, 2023. We have Exhibit F, which is oral testimony from Dave Bartholomew of October 3rd, 2023. Then we have Exhibit G, which you don't have in your packet tonight. It was handed out on October 3rd by, I believe, by Tim Leslie. And it's just from another city, just an example.
Oh.
So it doesn't apply to this particular code. It's just for ideas and things like that. So that is the list of our exhibits. And
Okay, thanks for sorting that out. Let's see, that's part of D, okay? And then, so let's have a summary of the staff report, and then we'll move on to the testimony of the proponent.
All right, we are here today to have a public hearing on file number POC. That's a Port Orford conditional use permit.
Could
20.
you speak up a little bit? I'm kind of hard of hearing.
Yeah, speak right into the mic.
All right, is that better, sir? All right, I try not to blow out the speakers, and I have a very deep voice, so it's easy for me. You have my apologies. We are here today to have a public hearing over POC 23-02. This is a continuation from the October 3rd public hearing, which itself was a continuation from the September 5th hearing. A rundown of the attachments for the staff report. Attachment A is the original materials submitted by the applicant. Attachment B is the revised materials submitted October 16th by the applicant. Attachment C is a list of changes between the original and revised materials, along with a chart that was prepared by the city planners that is showing sizes of RVs for nearby RV parks. Attachment D is testimony from the public hearings held on September 5th and October 3rd, as well as written testimony entered into the record. And attachment E is additional items to be addressed. It is the extension and agreement for applicant payment for services. The particular lots that we are looking at are tax lots 200 and 300 of T32S, R15W, section 32DC, what we would call 510 Madrona Avenue. The lots are directly north of the intersection of Madrona Avenue and Highway 101, and both lots are adjacent to and directly west of Highway 101. The applicant proposal is to accommodate 6 spaces for RVs on the lots. So the first thing in the report are definitions that we are drawing from. There have been no revisions until page 5. Where at the top I run through more or less what I just ran through with the continuations. And then at the bottom of page 5, subject property is not located more than 50 feet from any residentially zoned property. Thus the standard of 2 does not apply. However, in here I have mentioned that since the reconfiguration of the lots now has RVs on both sides, the staff is recommending a lot merger or a replat to make the 2 lots into one, seeing as there's RV spaces on both of them, so it would have to be 1 lot in order to stay single use. Moving on to, sorry about that. Page 6. The city may require assurances to guarantee developments in accordance with the standards established and conditions imposed in granting a conditional use.
Could you tell us where you are on the page?
That previous sentence was the bottom of page 5. Now I'm reading directly from the top of page 6. After hearing the applicant's presentation and public comment, it is appropriate for the Planning Commission to consider whether additional assurances are necessary to guarantee development in accordance with the standards in granting conditional use. Some items that would be appropriate would be ensure the demolition of one of the residences in the first stage of development, which would constitute substantive progress for the purposes of acquiring an extension if necessary. And after a brief conversation right before the meeting, as part of that, we would also need to have whichever residence is not demolished inspected by a county inspector to ensure that it is fit for habitation or occupancy, I should say. Additionally, required landscaping to prevent visual blight, as previously suggested by this Planning Commission. The applicant needs to comply with state regulations on RV parks in order to determine the number of spaces and amenities to accommodate. And I forgot to put it on here, but as previously mentioned, it would be appropriate to require a replatting of the property in order to get it to be single use. Next on page 6, the minimum standard for parking spaces is a parking space shall be provided for each mobile home space on the site. In addition, guest parking spaces should also be provided in every mobile home park within 200 feet of the mobile home spaces, served at a ratio of 1 per 2 mobile homes. So about 1.5 parking spaces per RV space. The staff, so they have the parking now defined on their new plat. Staff, however, is concerned about the configuration of the parking spaces requiring double parking and sharing spaces with the RV spaces. This issue will most likely require a reconfiguration of the current plan to ensure that double stacked parking doesn't prohibit access or exits from parking spaces and to fulfill the parking requirements. So additionally, allowing parking on the RV spaces themselves seems to be inconsistent between municipalities. And I believe it would be up to the Planning Commission to determine whether or not they would allow parking spaces on the RV spaces, as I believe it is a matter of interpretation. Moving on to page 8, storm, water, and page 7. It's starting on page 7 is the storm, water, and management standards. Revisions from the previous staff report are on page 8. The amount of impervious cover has been changed in order to be adjusted for the new sizes that we're considering for the RVs. It's a total of approximately 1,680 square feet of impervious ground, and thus would need more substantive storm drains to appear on the plans, but they are currently not. And then moving on to page 9, an extension to continue the public hearing to December, or page 8, the section is final action on certain applications required within 120 days. So we have a time limit on how long we can allow these things to continue. In order for this to continue to the public hearing to be held on December 5th, the Planning Commission, or the next Planning Commission meeting, we would have to get an extension, which allows for the extension of a 245-day permitted extension under Oregon law and the Port Orford Municipal Code. And then moving on to page 10, Planning Commission considerations. These are things that during the course of the hearing and communications with the planning commissioners and staff, these are a few things that came up that didn't really fit in anywhere else. So there were concerns over ORS 918-650-0050. Toilet facilities must be provided in every recreational park or organizational camp. They must be convenient and accessible within 500 feet of any RV space or camping site, not provided with individual toilet facilities or sewer connections. So since the proposal is for each spot to have a sewer connection, that is not applicable. The second thing to come up is that the warranty deed has an encumbrance on the site in question, which restricts the property to residential use only. However, after reviewing the wording on the deed and the planning requirements, Crystal and I have come to the conclusion that that is not enforceable by the city. That would be something that would be handled by something more along the lines of a homeowners association if there was one. That is at least my understanding. 3, there are concerns that the east side of the property has a geographic slope hazard that exceeds a 15% graded slope. This doesn't appear on the GIS hazard map, but the city hazard map shows the east side does have a steep enough slope to warrant concern, which is also confirmed with some visual inspection from the commissioners and myself. So it is appropriate for the Planning Commission to request geologic hazard practices be put into place to require or to minimize the risk. However, at this time, it is unnecessary as there is no development activity occurring in the area of the slope hazard. So staff recommendations for approval, page 11, the sewer line needs to be inspected with sewer camera imaging prior to hooking up to the main line of the city sewer. The applicant needs to get they're well approved from the Oregon Health Authority and Oregon Water Resources Department. The applicant provides a more in-depth erosion control and storm management plans detailing best practices, stamped by the applicant's engineer to be approved and utilized for the development. 4, the applicant shall comply with section 1716.060 for archaeological discoveries that are made during the development, if any are made. 5, that the demolition of one of the residences is the first stage of development. This would also constitute substantive progress for the purposes of acquiring an extension if necessary. 6, require landscaping to prevent visual blight as previously recommended and is already on the revision. 7, comply with state building codes requirements on RV parks for the building permit and compliance with the state fire marshal for access road at the time the planning commission approval of the layout. This will ensure that the proposal that is approved by the Planning Commission can be implemented. This may require a configuration of the current layout. And today, it isn't written here, but on this note, I believe that the PC should give, or the Planning Commission should give a firm ruling on what they want the dimensions of the RV spaces to be, and if you would allow parking between them. We can get more into that once I'm done reading all of this. Condition number 8, the applicant's engineer shall provide a topographical assessment for Planning Commission consideration and mark any slope hazard area that is 15% or more than a 15% slope on both the map and the property to prevent encroachment. This will ensure compliance with Port Orford Municipal Code section 1716.080, so that a full geologic hazard assessment is not required. The geologic hazard marked on the site to comply with the map provided by the applicant's engineer shall be inspected by the Port Orford City Administrator Planning Director and the Port Orford Public Works Director, working with the applicant's engineer at a time designated suitable to both parties. Such a meeting may be organized through the planning technician and confirmed prior to the issuances of any building codes permit for the RV park. Number 9, the applicant shall provide a signed acknowledgement of 1732.060 time on permit for conditional use at the time of approval. And then finally, another one I thought of after submitting this, but prior to this public hearing, the lighting must comply with the dark sky ordinance. All right, so sorry, I did my best to summarize, but I still need to work on that. Okay,
Okay, so you have more comments? Thank you.
Just a couple.
Thank you.
Yeah.
sorry.
So back in the middle of page 6, we talked about parking requirements back in the middle of page 6, and we kind of moved from RV park into mobile home park. We do not have requirements that apply directly to RV parks, but this particular RV park is proposed to be used for long-term stays, and we do have rules that apply to mobile home parks. So that is where we got the parking standards. I thought the applicant might be interested to know that, why we threw that in there. And then on page 9, we started talking about, I guess it was 9, no, it's 10. We started talking about the slope hazard, and I just wanted to say that there's another alternative besides having the engineer do this. This could be done by the surveyor, possibly at the same time as they're doing the lot merger, if that's an easier time to do it. Because we're requesting the lot merger ahead of other things, and so that would give somebody a chance to be out there and do 2 things at once. And on page 11, we were talking about the extension for progress and how we want one of the houses taken off because it's not in that great a shape anyway, and there wasn't a building permit for 2. And so that was one of the first conditions. And then we started talking about extensions. So this is a different kind of extension than the one that we're asking the applicant to do. This would be an extension for the conditional use permit once you get it, because then you have 1 year to get it all taken care of. And so that extension could be granted based on if you needed it for demolition of those residences and things, so that you could then go into the full development of the property. I hope that clarifies instead of making it worse. A lot of detail in these.
Crystal, this is Will from Civil West. When you're talking about that extension for conditional use,
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. We're
yeah,
not in the where you can speak.
okay,
We
sorry.
will open it up for public comment in just a moment, please. You're the applicant?
We are the applicant's engineer.
Good, thank you. So you just one moment, please. Okay, thank you for the update on that, Crystal. And so we are now to the point where the applicant will testify, say what your name is, where you live, and say what you want to say.
Either applicant.
So either applicant.
I would allow, have Will speak first.
Okay, so please state your name and where you live, and go ahead. Online, you online, sir,
Yeah.
online?
So my name's Will Dawson. I'm a principal at Civil West Engineering. I live in Coos Bay, Oregon. We've been working on this with Dave for over a year now, and I think we've addressed most everything from the October 3rd meeting. A couple items that have come up since we've submitted and talking to the owner. He would like the option of, instead of televising that existing sewer lateral, just to install a new sewer lateral service to that property. He'd like to have the option to do either or. Another thing that he's brought up is he plans on putting a cedar fence around the property to help with security fencing. As far as the parking situation goes, this is a RV park and not a mobile home park. So I'm not sure that the mobile home code applies here. And then my question for the conditional use extension, is that something that the applicant needs to apply for after that year?
As I understand, if we are to have any more meetings or any more, if we're to have another meeting, there has to be an extension. The meeting, the current application will run out in next week, so there would have to be an extension to go forward.
Right, and that's the extension for the 120-day waiver, right? But then there's another extension.
I think he's talking about the CUP.
Let Crystal speak to that.
So if and when it's time to approve the CUP, you will have a year to get it done. At that time, I believe it would be appropriate to state that because there's a lot of things having to do with demolition and everything, that you would like to have an extension of the CUP, and you could do that, say another year or something like that, right at the time that this is done, because normally a CUP doesn't have a lot merger and all these things that we have going on this property.
Right, understood.
And so whether the Planning Commission would grant it, we don't have anything that says you can do that extension right at the beginning, but I think it's worth a try to present it if that's what you're going to have to do, because I don't think you could do all those things in 1 year.
Was that
I
your
agree.
question, sir?
Yes,
Was that your
yeah, and thank you for the clarification.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Working with Dave, we think this will be a good, good housing for people in the area. He has the well. That's something that we need to get from OHA, just an approval letter. And as far as the storm drain management plan, that's something that we can definitely draft up and put together. So I don't see any of these conditions, anything that we cannot meet. So here to answer any questions you guys may have.
Okay, thank you. Do commissioners have questions? I'm sorry, can you say your last name again? I didn't catch it.
Dawson, Dawson.
Mr. Dawson, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, yes. So do any commissioners have questions of Mr. Dawson?
I have a question, Commissioner Head. On Exhibit C, list of changes in RC charts. Is this part of the staff report where it says that, sorry, this is for the city planner and right now, and then potentially for you, Mr. Dawson. It says that the access would have to be required to increase to 26 feet wide because of the all the extra, the double parking on the side. Can you clarify that?
So, Greg, do you want to?
I think we are only asking questions of the proponent right now.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
I mean, I guess my question would be, would it be possible to increase the access to 26 feet wide? It doesn't seem like, I'm looking at on the maps here, doesn't seem like, is it C3, C5? Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's room to increase the width. Is that something we can ask him?
Okay. I think the 26 feet is not
Applicable.
an issue.
Yes.
Okay,
I believe in looking at the code, I believe that 20 feet is if anything,
adequate.
as long as nothing is sticking into that 26 feet, into the, excuse me, the 20 feet, I think we're okay.
Okay.
You, sir, would you come up to the microphone? So you're a proponent?
He's the owner.
Yeah, my name's David Clark. I'm the owner of the property.
Thank you. Please sit down and let us know what,
Uh,
where you live and Mr. Clark.
I live at 3070 Riverbanks Road, Grants Pass, Oregon.
Thank you.
Did you get that?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. I've lived there for 40 years. I've lived in the state of Oregon since 1977.
Speak.
And I've measured, because I talked to Joseph about the parking along the entrance and the exit of the RV park. And if it fell under, I think it was 26 feet, I believe, that you can allow parking on each side of it. The access and the exit of the property is 28 feet wide from the fence line to the dwellings. So I just wanted to throw that.
I think you might have said that opposite, or I heard it wrong.
Say,
Did you say, I think you meant to say if the road is 26 feet or over, it can include parking, correct?
yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
sure Joseph would know
Yeah.
that.
Okay, thank you.
It's 28 feet is what it is. I just wanted.
So you're stating that the entrance and exit are 28 feet wide.
28.
Okay. So are you
I think he's talking about this here.
are you expecting that there will be parking along that entrance and exit?
Well, I know it isn't in the plans, but I know that it could be. I think by talking to Joseph, that if it's that wide, then they allow parking on the entrance and the exit. But
Okay.
that was my.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
the answer to that would, I guess, kind of depend on the planning commission's direction, if they'll allow the parking next to the RVs themselves. If that's allowable, then we have no need to have parking out on the driveway. But if the decision is that they can't, that 1.5 parking spots per RV spot can't be next to the RVs, then we would try to accommodate it in the driveway area.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions?
Commissioner Lawton, I guess Mr. Clark, can you tell us which of the buildings are going to be demolished on the property?
I was thinking of the 2-bedroom house to be demolished, but the only concern I have about it, and maybe I don't understand exactly what's going on, but I wouldn't want to demolish the house until I was sure that I was going to get a permit, a conditional use permit for the RV park,
Mm.
because it wouldn't make sense. And especially for having affordable housing in this area, I wouldn't want to demolish a house that would be affordable housing.
And then the second unit that you don't demolish, will that be an office? What would that be used for?
Uh, I'm thinking that maybe the house or the studio apartment. Usually in these RV parks, what they have is they have people that manage it that are on the property, and they usually have a place, either an RV or a house or something that they stay in. You know,
So you do plan on having an on-site manager?
yeah, that's my plans. I mean, I think to be able to keep control of the RV park, you need to have an on-site. And
Mhm.
beneficial for me and the people that are renting to have the RV, have their RVs.
Thank you.
I have a question about the area that vehicles will be parked. I have a number of questions about that. But one of the questions relates to the stormwater management. The parking spaces for a mobile home park, which this is similar to in that it's it's long-term housing, and they are vehicles, the same type, which, as you acknowledged in your project narrative, would require would require 1.5 extra parking spots for each unit. The code for that says that parking spaces shall have durable and dustless surfaces, adequately maintained for all weather use, and shall be properly drained. And I looked up on the internet about durable and dustless, and I saw one. I'm not an engineer. This is kind of an engineering question. Durable and dustless was defined as concrete or asphalt in one place, and in another place it was not. But in all cases that I read, it restricts the passage of water into the ground. And I'm wondering if it would be. I'm wondering if I would like to know what the area. I'd like to see that on the plan. How much of the area is going to be covered with compacted gravel, uh, which is a semi-permeable surface, as I understand. I know in my driveway, when it rains, the water just stands there. It doesn't go into the ground like it does other places. So I would, can that be put on the map so that we can see how much of the ground is actually covered? I noticed over in the corner of uh, where there are 3 cars parked, 3 trucks parked, I'm wondering if that area is also the that type of durable and dustless surface, in addition to the other parking areas and the main entrance road also. I don't see anything about the ground coverage on the plan.
We can certainly add that to the plan. The existing site is compacted rock right now. And so we could add the square footage of existing gravel versus proposed, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be helpful, I think. So I'm looking here, granular materials of crushed rock and gravel. So on the plan, on the key, in the key, it shows that there's a code for the crushed gravel, but it's not on where the areas where the vehicles are parked, it's not grayed in, so it's not shown, at least on the ones I'm looking at. I think that, and I'm asking that question with regard to the stormwater runoff, which would enter into that calculation that would be need to be calculated and dealt with. So it would be useful for us to have that. And if, for example, would the area where the cars parked, that would be, I assume, the durable industrialist. Also, I would assume that the path to those parking spots from the turnaround would also be the same surface.
That is correct.
Okay. Uh, my other question was access to the cars parked in the corner. So I would imagine. Well, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that off for our discussion.
So could some of this about the finish on the road and the finish on the parking spots and everything be included as first a plan and then part of the stormwater plan, which bases itself on the amount of pervious surface? So we would need the calculations prior to a building permit for that. And then I think the planning commission wants to see what Mr. Thielen has asked, Commissioner Thielen, at the hearing. We don't have to see the whole stormwater plan, but I think you might want to be getting there just because it's so intricately entwined on this application.
Yeah, and the request that we would have would be to make it a part of the conditions of approval, and then we could move this forward and submit that as part of our application. This is
Thank you.
I think this is the fourth meeting that we've attended on this subject.
Commissioner Burnt.
Commissioner Burnt, I have a question for Mr. Clark. Have you or would you consider reducing the number of spaces that you currently have on the plan if it would help with some of these issues?
Yes, it would, it's not all about money, okay? It's about making things happen. Yes, it could be reduced, but I have to pencil everything out and see where it's going to come out as far as, how it's going to pay versus what I'm putting into it. If it looks like it would work out, of course, in most RV parks, I've been around quite a few of them, and have friends that are developing them as we speak. And most of the people that live or stay in their RVs, they want to park their main vehicle for transportation next to their RV. They don't want to park it anywhere else. That's how that is. And we, when we, when I first bought this place, we made it so it's 3/4 minus gravel. The complete thing is, and 3/4 inch minus packs like clay. So the water really puddles up and runs like a river off it. 3/4 inch minus, it gradually flows off and it doesn't puddle up if it's kept level. And that's why we went with 3/4 minus over the whole thing. But just, I don't know if that means anything with the water erosion, but that's what it is right now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lawton, you have a question?
Yes, could you go over, I guess, Mr. Dawson, the site layout plan, phase 2, the parking a little bit? There's 3 RVs in the center here. I don't see where the parking spaces are for them. And then on the upper left side, there are 3 vehicle parking spaces there, but 2 of them, one's parked behind the other. Can you explain the parking situation as it's here?
Yeah, and so it is a tight site, and so we're trying to accommodate that 1.5 parking spots per unit. And so there's 5 units there shown, and so there's 2 parking spots on the 3 to the back. When we remove the house, we could probably add 2 more parking spots right there, so to accommodate the 1.5 parking spots for those other 2
Instead of
units.
the RV, because on this sheet it shows 3 RVs in the center, and that's after the large house is removed. Is that correct?
I think there's 2 RV spots in the center, and then there's the 3 on the northern part. And so
On map
Lot
C,
200.
map C7, an RV replaces the large structure that's going to be removed.
correct.
There we go.
Oh, for the second phase. I'm sorry, I was looking at the other one on
Yeah,
C5.
second phase is what I'm referring to. And so you've got 3 in the center, but I don't
Yeah,
see the parking spaces. Are the parking spaces for these intended to be up in that top left area, that the 3 vehicles that are designated there?
that's correct.
We do-
So that seems, how would someone, if these represent 3 different RVs, 3 different vehicles, you've got one blocking the other? Is that, am I correct the way I'm looking at this?
I'm not sure that I follow you. I'm sorry. One of the RVs blocking the other RV.
No, the vehicles. Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the vehicles.
that are double stacked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
correct. And
yes.
And then there's the ADA parking stalls, but I'm assuming that they have to be kept for handicap only.
Mhm.
So
correct.
Yeah.
Well, we
Go ahead,
called
Dave.
out the stacked parking, as Will is referring to it, and you're calling it something else, blocked parking, I think. And we don't think that we should have stacked parking, because that results in no parking for somebody, because they're not going to be going in there where they're blocked. So that's part of the reconfiguration we're hoping, and the solution to the reconfiguration. And then the question Joseph had in his staff report of maybe whether we could permit the parking by the RVs. And I think
Mhm.
maybe Mr. Dawson said that that was what they wanted, and that would make sense to me. I like to park by my house as close as I can. So that's a whole little bit of reconfiguration that we believe needs to be done. And it's my understanding, and you can correct me, Mr. Clark, from our discussion, you were expecting to do that. And if you need to end up with one less space, then probably that could be done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be okay. But I go back to when I talked to Joseph and he said if the entrance and exit are a certain footage, you can put additional parking for like visitors there, but you still have to have, I think it's maybe 20 feet or something for like in case there was a fire or something, fire truck could get in there or an ambulance or anything, you know. And I don't know if is that correct, Joseph?
So,
You remember that?
so I have read the fire codes very thoroughly, and so the 20 feet needs to be absolutely clear all the time.
Yeah, see, so
That's the rule.
Yeah.
So what happens outside that 20 feet is it's not important to the fire department, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about emergency vehicle entrance.
So if it's 28 feet, 20 foot for entrance and exit for an ambulance, fire, police, anybody, and that would give you 8 feet for parking on the other side.
So I think in my mind, parking is one of the big issues here with this proposal.
Sure.
In my mind, and the stacked parking is when I see two cars end to end, I see one parking spot with two cars in it. So,
Yeah.
so when I count this parking spots, I only count 1, 2, 3, 4. I count 5 parking spots on here. So if there are going to be other spots, or if the parking is, if the numbers are going to match up, I would like to see the drawing of how it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
That because I don't think we can I don't think we can
He's
do a
counting the
conditional use
ADA
permit
spots.
for something that
1, 2.
that's kind of a stretch to if we can't see it.
No, no,
But if
that
we
would
can
be-
see it, then we know what we're working with.
Exactly. And my main concern is I want everything to work.
Yeah.
I don't want to have problems down the road. So,
Commissioner Head.
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Dawson at Civil West. My apologies if this is redundant because there's a lot of material here, so I just wanted to verify.
No problem.
In the previous plan, there was the compost berm silt fence or the sediment barrier along the eastern edge. And just for the sake of this example, if the 3 cars stay in the northeast corner there, I was wondering what the plan was for, I know it's not a substantial slope here, but to prevent the, 3/4 minus from slipping off the edge, and how are you going to keep that edge maintained for cars coming and going?
So that's something we can work with the owner on, but probably have some larger rocks on the top of that slope. And then, if there's any disturbance to that slope, they would seed it and spread straw to make sure that vegetation grows on it. But
So the rocks would be in
the
the setback.
actual, there's not a whole lot of grading that has to take place for this project because it's already all flat out there. So it's not like we're bringing down this property a couple of feet. If anything,
Right.
we might bring it up a little bit with a little more rock.
Okay. One question, thank you. Another question for the owner, and I'm not really sure this has a lot of bearing on the, I'm curious. If you use 3/4 minus, I'm no stranger to gravel. Eventually weeds, grass will grow through it. If you're not using road base, right? If you're not compacting and using clay in your, whatever you're putting down here. I mean, is there a plan to mitigate that? Does it involve,
well,
Roundup?
there's probably 6 to 8 inches deep, 3/4 minus in there. And then there's larger rock underneath of it. And
Excuse me, can you use the microphone? Get the microphone a
okay,
little closer,
in the
please.
last, I'd say 8 or 9 years, nothing has moved. In the middle, I think it was in January when they came in there to drill that well.
Mm-hmm.
That well drilling rigs are very heavy. They have a 20,000-pound front end on them, so they're about 5,000, 10,000 pounds per tire. And when they drove in there, they didn't leave any tracks. It's really compacted well, but
Mm-hmm.
and nothing's eroded off there so far.
Right. Okay. Are you planning to use a different, I don't know, I'm just concerned about are you planning to use different type of compaction under the RV spaces or as opposed to the other areas? Or are you going to leave it as is with your, however many inches of 3/4 minus and
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's probably good, and maybe just like a 6 by 8 little cement slab for in front of their RV where they enter and exit. That's how most RV parks are.
Mm-hmm.
But Will would know better than I would of
Mm-hmm.
the rock and the compaction.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a question about, Mr. Dawson, you mentioned a fence. Uh, I don't see a fence on the drawing here. What were you considering?
Yeah, and it's not on the plan. It was something that kind of came up uh, after we submitted and when Dave and I were talking, and something that he's considered is doing like a 6-foot tall fence around the perimeter of the property, for visual um, reasons and then also just for security reasons.
Thank you.
I'm going to put that as a condition that we would like to see that on the site plan.
Yep, not a problem.
I see on the newer plan that we're seeing this month, there's bushes or shrubs between the areas, and as a resident of Port Orford, I'm concerned that we don't have that the first view driving in on 101 is mobile homes, and I don't know. Some people say the words visual blight, but um, I would like to see trees or tall, like 10-foot high trees along the north and north and east sides at least of the property. I know we have we have landscaping requirements in other parts of the town, specifically the 10 MU mixed use zone. And is that something that you've thought about?
Yes. On Bartholomew, the neighbors that are right next door, when I moved there was no fence or nothing. And I put up a cedar fence all along their property just for respect for them, just block it off. And they really loved it and liked it. And it's been there ever since. But uh, I planned on putting that's why me and Will talked about it, the same cedar fence along the east side along 101. And then on the outside of the fence in the 5-foot area, I was thinking of planting some kind of an evergreen there. But the main thing is for the people in the RV park or the people that are staying there, it blocks the sound of 101. So it's just, and that's what the neighbors told me that that fence did for his mom, that's, I think
Yes.
over 100 now.
So from my view, a 6 foot cedar fence would look good. It wouldn't necessarily hide vehicles or the mobile homes themselves, the RVs themselves, which the taller plantings would.
Right.
So I would like to see something.
And it's
You're
amazing,
amenable to that.
it's amazing how it blocks sound.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're right. You're right there on 101 truck traffic, all day, all night.
Commissioner.
Yeah, Commissioner Head, Crystal, can I request Civil West add something to the next plan? Or do
I
I have
think,
to
go
do it through
ahead,
you?
yeah. I mean, I've been jotting down
So
things too.
I'm trying to, as the chair, I'm kind of new at this, but there's a part of the meeting where we discuss what's going to happen. There's a part
Mhm.
where we ask questions of the applicant.
Okay,
I think this is the
I
asking
can move,
questions of
I
the
can move
applicant.
that to the discussion.
Yeah, so I'd like to stick with this part of it.
Okay,
So if we've been thinking about something
just trying to get it
that
out while it's on my mind.
that we can get more information on, this is the
Mhm.
time to do that. And then we will actually talk among ourselves and
Okay,
make a decision.
okay.
So are there any more questions for the applicants?
Just for clarity, Sarah Lovendall, Mr. Clark, you said this is a long-term, long-stay park. What do you mean by that? What is long stay for you?
Preferably it'd be, 6 months or longer, but in this world, I mean, it'd be at least a minimum of 30 days.
Hmm.
Nothing, I mean, for me, it'd be better if it was longer. Give somebody a good place to stay. There's no housing in Port Orford. This would be some affordable housing for people. And like Chris Speed, the realtor, she asked me over the years, Dave, when are you going to do that? And because she says that she has elderly people that are living outside in the area of Port Orford that have big places that they can't handle anymore, but they won't sell their place because they don't want to leave Port Orford. So she said, let me know. I know people that'll move in there right away. And that's why I had Christopher put in there that there would be no RVs older than, I think it was 10 years, because then,
Hmm.
you end up, like that. I don't talk bad about nothing, but about 101 and, over there across from where the port and starboard used to be, you know.
Hmm.
That's probably the worst one, I think, in Port Orford, I think.
Okay,
I
thank
have,
you.
sorry, I have one last question.
One more? Yes, go ahead.
But at
Commissioner
first I
Head.
need to see clarification from Joseph. This document that says project narrative RV project park project on 510 Madrona Avenue, tax lock 200, where it talks about the development of 6 spaces, of which 3 spaces will be designated for long-term use and 3 will be designated for daily short-term use. Is this the new one or the old one?
I think that would have to be the old one. I don't remember seeing anything about short-term stays in the revised materials.
Okay, because I wanted to verify with
We'll go
with Civil West and
to,
Yeah, please do.
yeah.
I could have
Yeah,
easily missed that.
that was a miscommunication, I think, with me and Chris originally,
Okay, I see.
and then as it progressed on, I told him that, hey, I want this to be long-term. I don't want it to be, in and out.
Coming and going. Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, no problem.
Would you like to make any more statements or give us any more information before we move on to the opponents?
Oh, I would like to make one statement, though. My neighbor, Tim Leslie, he kept, I watched the meetings, and he kept saying that he was over there all the time and watching everything. And he was never over there, and I think he just wants to He doesn't want that to happen because he thinks it's going to devalue his property. Because he doesn't like the apartments next door to his house. So he's been shoving a lot of negativity towards me and my place. I'm 3 hours away. I live in Oregon. I vacation in Mexico, but I live here in Oregon. So
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
that's it. You done with me?
We may open this up and ask you more questions after so please stay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Are there opponents that would like to speak online? Okay, then I'm going to close the public part of the hearing at 4:35. And now it's time for us to deliberate on what we should do. Now, I will say again that um, the time has run out. We have to decide yes or no today, unless we get an extension. So,
And we don't tell the applicant he has to get an extension. That if the applicant wants an extension and you want to go on with this, you need to offer, and we need to get that settled so we know what else we can do at this meeting, because we have three choices: approve, which we're not ready to do, I do not believe from what I've heard; deny, which could be done with findings; or get an extension from the applicant so he can come back to us with the things we've been discussing. So I guess that's the question, the question really
So-
before we go on.
I guess it is. And I don't know whether, so you say we can't ask that question?
Well, it's not for us to push the applicant
okay.
anyway.
Yeah.
It's up to Mr. Clark and Mr. Dawson to say whether they want an extension so that they can continue with this.
Okay.
Crystal, at what point would they request an extension?
I think it's right now, because you are at the point of deciding whether to approve, deny,
Mhm.
or have an
And
extension.
they have to ask for an extension before we deny or,
Well, yes.
okay.
I mean, from the sound of the um, conversation that's been going on, I don't think they're looking for a denial. I
Mhm.
don't think, I think they realize that we're not ready for an approval, but I guess the question is whether they're ready to do it, to sign an extension so that we can continue with this. That would be for Dave Clark, I think. Why don't you come up?
Yeah, I just have one question. If the conditions of,
Please come up tonight. And I'm going to open up the meeting again so you can speak. So go ahead and speak.
I just have one question. Maybe I don't understand it. If, if you guys allow the conditional use permit, will I know that before I demolish the house?
Yes.
Or do I need to demolish
Yes.
the house and then you
No,
determine?
no. We're at the part of the meeting where the planning commission has to make a decision.
Mhm,
It doesn't sound like they're ready to approve. And it doesn't, and I think you guys understand that. We've been talking about what you're going to do next.
mhm.
I don't think you want a denial, because then you wouldn't get to do anything next. So it sounds like you want an extension, and if you're ready to sign an extension, we have a form here where you can do it. Not only an extension, but an agreement to pay professional fees. If we need to get an engineer or something to inspect something, we don't know that we will. It depends on what we see on those site plans. Also, my work is on contract with the city, And normally we charge the applicants from the beginning. We didn't do that because we had some confusion here at the city when you first came in, and we didn't want to start slamming a lot of things on you until the city had their act together, which I think we do. So did you want to go ahead and get the extension? So that's the question.
And, okay, and how long is the extension?
Well, the state law says that you can have up to 245 days. Now you've had 120 already. So that would leave 125 days. You don't have to have that all at one time, but in no case can you go over 365 days. So, you know, this extension can be spaced out. Like if you came back December 5th,
245 days, isn't it?
it's a 245 day total, but the time, but it can be interspersed. In other
Oh,
words,
I see. Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's a little complicated and I don't expect people to understand it. I only half understand it, but I did study it.
Yeah. In basic things, I mean, is this extension for 120 days or
It's actually
245?
125 days,
How much?
125 days, because
Oh.
you've already used 120. This is
Okay.
the state laws.
Yeah.
So I'll just bring these to you if you,
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. Yeah, I don't have a problem with the extension.
Yes.
I talked to my attorney in Brookings, Oregon, and he advised me not to sign the other one unless it was worded out what I would be paying for. He told, and I don't know, lawyers, he told me this one, I think this one would be
that's the
like
one he's talking about.
yeah, he said, he more or less told me that, he says, that's like just opening,
It is, but we
uh,
don't have any other way to do it because otherwise you're using services that cost the city money. And
and that are not included in the
you
application.
get an accounting of it all. I mean, if you didn't like it at the time.
But no approval. I mean, I don't
Right.
want to have a $30,000
You're not
thing come up
you're
out
not
of the
gonna get
blue.
that.
I think you have to trust the city that we're not trying to make money off of anything, that we're just trying to pay for the things that we spend.
Yeah.
I know that's true just from my,
And I understand that this needs to be done because there's so many there's a lot of things that need to be addressed. And both of us need to know what that is, right?
We do.
Well, hey, where do I sign this thing?
I didn't want to hover over you. So
That's
you print
okay.
your name and you sign your name and
Okay.
you put the date and you you mark extension and waiver.
What is it?
Mark
Dave?
these.
Joseph, moving the
And then
camera around.
today is the 8th.
7th, isn't it?
Today's the 7th.
Seventh.
It is the
Seven.
7th. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
7th,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
11th.
This is exactly what I'm not supposed to do. Hover over it like.
Oh,
It's okay. You're just
Sign
being
tomorrow.
It's pretty hard to talk to
well, look at that date. It's 11/7, so it must be pretty good. You guys ever play craps or anything?
yeah,
Okay,
So you'll get.
I'm gonna do this, but
fortunately.
Yeah. I
even
understand.
against my attorney told me not
Well,
to do it.
you'll get the month by month, so it's not gonna be like this whole thing drags out and.
It's not a lump sum. It's a monthly statement
Hey,
of the
it
hours.
isn't a $200,000 credit line.
I wish it was.
Same.
Mhm.
What would we do with that, huh?
So, I'm going to close this back up and we're going to just deliberate. Now we can deliberate. We're going to have another meeting. Well, I'm assuming there will be another meeting on this. I'll have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
No, we'll-
December.
real-
So will we hold this over then? At the request of the applicant?
Yes, I believe it would be another continuance. You might want to get your deliberations done
Right.
first and make it clear, anything that was discussed today that would be a condition or that you would like to see revised on the next application,
Right.
restate so it's clear for
Okay.
everybody.
So what I would like to do is to be really clear about what we would like to see so that we can actually make a decision and so that something can happen. These folks have shown up in good faith. They've been working with us. Let's work with them and see that everybody can get happy, or at least go home okay. So we have a list of staff recommended conditions of approval. So personally, I would like to see, we're talking now, this is our discussion time. I would like to see this plan, the whatever it's called, a preliminary layout plan. I would like to see, oh yes, I would like to, so in my reading of the relevant codes, we have an RV space defined in the code, and we have parking space defined in the code. I would like to see parking space broken away from what is called RV spot width. And it looks like I think they're going to be able to fit in all the parking they need. But as defined in the codes, it's not RV spot width with parking in it. It's RV space and parking space, durable and dustless. That's, so I would like to see where all the parking spaces are going to be. I would like to see them not be doubled up like that. That doesn't count as a parking space to me. It counts as a storage space. You have a car, somebody pulls in behind you, now they went away somewhere else, they've got the key. Now the fire comes, and now I can't get out because I'm blocked.
Greg, sorry, can I clarify? You're suggesting that the parking needs to come out of the RV space completely?
I suggest that they make the RV space the size of the RV. Like you go to a campground, your
Right.
RV space is the size of the RV. There's also a parking space
Right.
because
Yes.
that's the way it's defined in
Yeah.
the code.
That's paved with either,
It's hard surface. Yes,
yeah, not gravel.
I think that's debatable, and I think that's going to be up to the engineers whether it is or not. I've seen it both ways on the internet.
Right.
I'm not saying it has to be paved,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the water permeability is an issue.
Right.
If you get gravel laid down and you drive on it, that's an issue with water.
Mm-hmm.
That's a separate issue.
Right.
There's other kinds of permeable surface.
There are other kinds
There are.
of permeable surface.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I guess the one thing I like is to show all the parking spots on the property. So they're all accounted for where they actually are going to be. So we can look at the map and see that it's 28 feet here at the entrance. Well, a car almost fits there, but it doesn't quite fit. So we want to know exactly where everything's laid out, and whether they have to dismiss one of the RVs in order to get then we've got something that's legal and follows the book. The three jammed up in the corner, I don't know, I don't think you can count that as 3 parking spots. So for me, a parking spot is a place you pull into, you can pull out of anytime you want.
So I have a question that Joseph and I were talking about, whether the planning commission would permit. So you have the RV space, the parking space, and then you have a half parking space that's could be shared by 2 different spots if you put it in the right place. Is that something you are going to permit or not? Am I explaining that?
What's a half parking space?
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, well, I didn't either, but
And-
it was a question
Shared?
that we wanted to ask.
And I don't see a problem with 2 cars parking in a row, but it's really only one spot. It's only one parking,
Mhm.
technically it's only one parking spot.
Right.
The front one is storage,
Mm-hmm.
as far as it's for a dead car or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
So did you know what I was saying?
Just
about
explain that
where-
again.
Yep,
Well,
please.
Joseph's more
He's
logical
got
than
it up
me.
on
He's
the
gonna-
monitor,
Yeah.
on the screen.
So, sorry about my poor drawing skills. Basically, what we're saying is the RV spaces are 30 wide. Currently, that's what we were asking for. If we're going to allow the parking here, should the RV spots be 20? And Greg said that it should be as wide as the RVs are, and then have the remaining 10 feet be for the 8-foot parking space and then 2 feet of landscaping. And then that's 10 feet between the RV spaces and a parking space between them that is within our code. Is Greg, you're shaking your head no.
Yeah, I don't think that's, I mean, I don't know. I'm not I don't think there's anything in the code about that
Yep,
that
and
I've seen.
yeah, that's why I'm asking for the commission to give some sort of a firm
And I guess
ruling on that.
I guess that we may count on Will, whether he would be able to do that.
Mhm.
I know if it was me, I'd rather have the bushes, I'd rather have bushes between me and the next person totally,
Yes.
and not have a parking area, unless there was another parking area somewhere else where I parked another vehicle. That's just that's how I would feel, but I don't think that's my decision. I would just like to see the number of parking spaces that there are be accessible and drawn on the scale, drawn on the map, for sure. We know that's where they are. The other thing I'd like to see is the fence, at least a fence on the north and the east side, and plantings, like plantings as high as the RVs are. That's what I'm thinking. That are like a wall of
Mm-hmm.
Laurel.
Cypress.
laurel or
Yeah,
arborvitae,
arborvitae. Mm-hmm.
So
something.
you're asking to call out specifically what the plants would be and what their size would be.
Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
to say what plant is there and how tall it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and how close they are together.
Right.
Those would be the three things that I would like to see. And especially on the north and the east, because that's the 101 side, and I mean it would be awesome on the other side too. But yeah, so those are two things I'd like to see. Commissioner Head.
Yep. I have a question for Joseph and Crystal first. In the Exhibit C list of changes and RC chart, the RV space sizes, did that include parking? Space width of 20, 25, 15 to 20, less than 15?
It was inconsistent and depended from park to park. What I noticed was none of the ones that were under 15 or 15 to 20 had parking adjacent to it, but the ones that were 25 or 20 to 25 did have parking either adjacent to it or allowed parking in that space.
I see. Okay.
But that is a sample size of only 7 parks, so
Okay.
take
Mhm.
that with a grain of salt.
Okay, thank you. I think I don't think the stacked parking is a good idea either. I think that should be resolved. In the next version of this plan, I'd like to see rocks or structural elements added to the northeast corner on that sort of on that slope there where the cars are all stacked up. Structural elements, rocks or because Mr. Dawson, he mentioned, he said rocks or something, so I think maybe a more solid plan there, but I don't think, to my knowledge, that they can be put in the setback, right? So where would they be? You could, okay, so it wouldn't go into the parking space there. Okay. So also I'd like to see the direction of traffic on this one-way road, because Mr. Leslie stated that he had a preference for which way the traffic came in and out, because if it went in and out in a certain direction, the headlights would all be shining into his living room, into his house. So I think they would probably go in at the west end and exit on the east, the side closer to the highway. Yeah, so, and then is there any way to make the final determination? Because I feel like there's maybe too many with the removal of the second structure and another RV going in there, possibly too many RVs because of this parking issue. Is there any way to make the number of RVs contingent upon the inspection of the small dwelling to see if it's can be inhabited? Because then the property owner would know whether or not he could take out the larger structure.
It seems like to me, like, um, um, we should know before this thing is approved where everything exactly goes. So
Right,
we have a plan that we know they're going to
right.
do.
But I'm saying we might not be able to have that unless we know for sure whether the plan of the development in the middle hinges upon the small structure being able to be inhabited.
Well, that's up to the applicant, however they want to do it. I mean,
Mhm.
they say how they want to do it, and then we look at it, and I mean, it's not up to us uh,
Well, that's why I'm asking if we can make it a requirement that that building is inspected.
I think that's
oh,
what
oh,
Joseph
inspected.
mentioned. I think
Inspected?
Joseph
Oh,
mentioned.
was that the question?
Yes,
Inspected? Yes.
inspected.
Yes.
Hmm.
I'm sorry.
That,
I
that's
misunderstood.
okay. I may have misspoke.
I
Hmm.
think Joseph said he wanted that in one of the findings that would be inspected for occupancy.
Right.
If it remained,
Hmm.
that it would be inspected for occupancy.
Right. And I think that the final plan hinges on whether or not that is the case. Right. So for me, in order to approve a final plan,
I see.
that involves another RV in the center here, the addition of another RV. That feels like to me something that we should know. Just putting that out there.
Hmm. Yeah, well,
Is this coming about because there is no building permit for that structure?
Right.
I think that's
Yes.
the issue.
So how can we, I mean, just to call it out what it is? Um,
Yeah, we can't.
I don't know how, you can have one and not and know the other one first.
Hmm.
That's what you're saying.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that the applicant just has to decide what they want to do and make a proposal to us,
Hmm.
and take do due diligence and say, this is what we're doing.
Hmm. I think it
Because
would,
we can't
yeah, we can't make a recommendation, but
we can't make things contingent on an inspection.
okay.
I mean, or yeah, I don't know. I think the applicant just needs to decide what they're going to do.
Okay, because for me, it just feels like a loose end that we won't, that has to be resolved before a final plan is approved.
I
Well,
believe
it
that
sounds like that's the plan anyway, to remove it.
Right. But it's not clear whether, did we determine that there has to be an inhabitable structure on the property for a manager? Is that a requirement?
No, a manager
No.
could live in an RV.
No.
Live in an RV. So it
Yeah,
could
they can
be,
share 'em
could
both
be an
ways.
office. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it could just remain yeah,
Okay.
but it would still have to be
Permitted.
inspected.
Right. Okay. I see.
Commissioner Lawton,
With regard to the entry and exit that you were talking about, and I recall.
could you speak in the microphone, please, so we can all
Oh,
hear you?
sorry.
Thank you.
With regard to the entry and exit, that the concern of the neighbor was the headlights in his house. However, if you turn that around so that the exit is up closer to Highway 101, that could be a safety issue. if you're exiting so close to where people are turning off of Highway 101 into that area, I would think that might open up a safety consideration more so than it would if they were exiting down farther. Because people, when they turn right pretty much on any street, they can be going quite fast. So I would think I would support the safety issue over the headlight issue if it were my consideration.
Is that even something we can specify? Is that we could make is that an infringement on their?
The
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
The direction, but I mean, from Highway 101?
Yeah. No, which way the entrance and
Yeah,
exit
you
would
can
be.
do that.
We can.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, Commissioner Lawton.
Mhm.
The
In fact, you should do that.
The safety,
because-
that is a safety issue.
Mhm.
That's a good point.
How far is that from the corner?
Oh,
I'm thinking of Gold Beach Lumber that has,
Close.
Yeah, it looks like
It's about
it's about 22.
25 feet.
Yeah, 22 points, the same
Car
as the
length.
width. Mm-hmm.
I think of Ray's, they have an exit right there where people turn off 101. I don't know, I'm just saying.
I don't know. It's a good point. Commissioner Burnt.
I have a different question. There's been discussion about adding rock. What I am wondering is if there might be a need for like a retaining wall to prevent slide. I don't know the terrain and the topography, but I would think that maybe if there is a need for something like that, it should be shown on the plan.
If you look in this, let's see, it's the northwest corner. It's quite steep there along the edge. And then you can see on the east side that it's much more gradual. There's only, looks like 5 feet between the main topo lines there. So, and that's kind of what I was talking about up here in the northeast corner at, putting some kind of structural barrier on the map.
This was really
But-
steep back here because here's the well.
Mm-hmm. That is, yeah, that's steep as well. Yeah, next to the whole eastern
north.
side.
Is this north?
This is north this way. Yeah. The whole east side and then maybe in the northeast corner.
So,
This is all very steep.
I guess we could ask for it to have their engineer look at that and make a determination.
You can see the topo lines.
Because we're not qualified to make
No.
that decision.
So that would be part of the whole topography issue, correct?
Yes. Yes. Anything else, commissioners? That we,
Did we say we were going to add lighting in compliance with dark sky?
yes.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that we,
Mm-hmm.
all of those contingencies plotting you will be in the.
Do we now need to, has an extension been requested?
Yes.
Yes.
So the extension has been requested. So this will be held over? So do they have to ask for it to be held over? Or do we know that that's going to happen?
They
I think you have
they have
to
asked for an extension of this 245 days, and then no more than 365
Okay.
if we do it in pieces.
Then I guess we need to ask when would they like to have the meeting held over
I
to?
think that
What would be good for us?
I think I put this in here because this extension has to include any appeal to the council. Say we get to the end of this and, we don't come to agreement with the applicants or something, and then we end up denying it. They want the right to appeal to the council.
Right.
And so, and present whatever they have that they figure out at that time. And so that has to be part of the extension time, allowing for that. So I think that what I put here in the staff report was prepared by Joseph, except this one section. And I think I'm suggesting that we carry it over till December so that we get right on this.
Okay.
And then if, there's other times that they need to come back with something to show us, there's time to do that. But by the 245 days is up. So the 120 days is up this month in just a week or so. So you add another 120 days and 125 days, that brings you to,
February, March.
yeah, March. So we have to have this thing done by March unless we do something in pieces, like if they had to go find out something and come back. But in any case, it has to be done by March. So we only have December, really, and possibly January, because we've got to allow for any appeal, and that appeal we have to leave all of February and a little bit of March. So we don't have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of time.
So
We should do this in December.
maybe I got the cart before the horse. So maybe what we need to figure out what our conditions are.
Right.
And then we can ask the applicant if they think they can have it done by December 5th
Or some of it, so we can get going with this.
or even just some of it.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
it doesn't have to be all
if,
done.
like so that we can start to see
Yes.
the configuration, and then if there's some little details,
Mhm.
those might be able to come back in January. But
Mhm.
pretty soon by January, we're running out of time.
Right, I
Okay.
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
let's go ahead and so I like the conditions that we had here that staff recommended, the sewer line, the well approval, the erosion control and storm management, including uh, 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 um, including a layout of the gravelled areas for parking on the layout map.
Commissioner Thielen, and if they could indicate what's impermeable and what's permeable, I feel like that would be helpful too.
Well, I think the
The code requires that.
what the engineers, I think some is going to be semi-permeable, which will
Mhm.
enter into the calculation.
Okay,
Because hard packed gravel is not impermeable, but it's not permeable.
right,
It is
semi-permeable
but it's
versus
semi-permeable.
impermeable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the engineers know that stuff.
Mhm.
You can't just ignore it because it's gravel and not concrete.
Right.
So yes, that's number 3. Number 4, the archaeological discoveries. Number 5, I'm not sure that ensuring the demolition is uh, necessary to to demonstrate substantive progress. It seems to be that's that's a little bit onerous, especially if they haven't decided yet what they're going
Right.
to do.
Yeah.
I think that
Mhm.
when the time comes, so I would like to not include that.
Sure.
It's
The final
kind of a little
layout.
much.
Should we say consider demolition or something instead of,
Or
so that they at least can report back as they find things?
Well, I'm expecting that the plan they give us is going to be what they're going to do. Whether they're going to whatever they're going to do, it's going to be on there.
Show us any plan for demolition or.
Yeah,
They can show a plan or a permit or some progress towards it.
yeah. That the demolition will be included. Any demolition will be included on the plan.
And what will go in that space?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Real quick,
Joseph,
so that being used to demonstrate substantive progress, that's for the extension if it is approved and they need a subsequent extension after the approval. That's what that was referring to.
right. I think if they break ground and start messing around there and start putting stuff in, that'll be substantive.
Okay,
Once the die is cast, he's not going to do anything else. That's what's going to happen. So
okay.
it's not going to, I don't think we need to hold him into any guarantee that way.
Just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. So thank you, Chair.
Maybe other conditional uses, I would say yes, but this one, I
Okay.
don't think so. The landscaping,
So it's a landscaping plan we want, isn't it?
we want a landscaping plan with height, distance, and species along the north and east boundaries, minimum.
I also feel like that would be an appropriate place to stick the requesting to see the fence around the property.
And the fence,
Mhm.
as they suggested, which I think would be great.
I would say hardscape and landscape.
What's hardscape?
That's like rock and
Rock.
fence and,
Oh,
yeah.
did the applicant suggest rock? Is that where that got brought up, or did we bring rock
I
up?
heard that.
He mentioned it when I was talking about the northeast corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would be an option, I think.
Hardscapes, features such as rock and fencing.
I wouldn't want I would hate to see a space in the trees because there was rock, but that's whatever. And then the building codes, number 7, comply with the building codes, including all parking spaces drawn on the.
Yeah, the building codes, we're not in charge of the building codes. I mean, we really, it's not our thing.
Okay.
But the reason that we need it on this is because the building codes have specifics about size and stuff. And if we don't take those into consideration
Mhm.
when we're doing the layout, then the whole layout's going to change, possibly if there was something that building codes didn't like. So we're just asking for that to be incorporated early.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the layout of the parking spaces would be included in that section, I think.
So too.
It was mentioned there, so. Then the topographic assessment, which would include any retaining structures necessary for erosion or
Runoff.
sliding or
Mm-hmm. Erosion.
Yeah, erosion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for writing all this down.
Well, yeah, I hope I can read it.
Then number 9, the applicant shall provide a signed acknowledgement of time on a permit for conditional use, which I think
That
They
would
just
be
did.
the time of approval.
we've already.
That's a different.
Oh, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's already in here.
We put that in all of them. Yeah,
Okay.
so.
Applicant submits a replat to do a lot merger, so the 2 lots become 1.
Mhm.
Now, does that need to happen before the approval?
I think that can, I think that can be a consolidated application with the approval. I'm sure there are surveyors connected with Civil West,
Mhm.
possibly, so that this could all be,
Could all be done together?
yeah, I don't know. I guess that's a question for the applicants, but however they do it, we can entertain it all at the same time if they're ready.
But it is a necessary piece for this to happen.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have to, it doesn't have to be, as long as it's required and they're working on it.
Okay,
I don't think that we have to see the lot merger before we
Okay.
approve anything.
so that would be a condition.
Correct.
They submit the replat. Okay.
Mhm.
Any extension to the public hearing? Oh, so we've taken care of that. And Oh, and I wrote one, I had one on here that we recommend no parking in a fire lane sign
Mm-hmm.
as is required by the fire official in some places. Um, Because not parking in the 20 feet drive is really important. So I think it should be there. I think there should be a sign. And I don't think that we can require it, but we can request that that the fire, I don't know how you do that. If we request the fire uh, official requires it, I don't,
Well, we could ask them to get a sign off from the fire inspector,
okay, so we could request.
the one in Brookings, the
Uh-huh.
fire marshal,
Mhm.
state fire marshal.
I would like to see a sign on that road, that there's no parking in the road.
Good idea.
And
So do you want a sign off?
Sign off from the state fire marshal that they've met the requirements you're talking about.
Once, but that would have to be when they see the plans.
Right.
Sign off on plans.
Right.
And
So they can't just ask the fire marshal.
Right.
We've been a little lax about this, I think, because people might be going to these agencies and asking for sign off. Some agencies already know that they have to see all the plans, and that's the first thing they tell the clients. We have to see the plans. Some agencies who have revolving heads, like volunteer agencies, aren't going to have that knowledge. So if nobody goes to them with the plans, how can they do a sign off? So we have to get a little better about doing this.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Get a little bit lax.
okay,
We have to get better about a lot of things, but there's a lot of things to worry about.
Right.
I've got a whole list of things I can barely read.
I can help too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything else that
And that included the storm management plan.
I'm sorry, I can't.
That included the storm management plan.
Yes.
I was wondering if it's possible to ask Joseph and Crystal to look into the sort of the layout at Boyce Cope Park out by Flores Lake to see, widths, and because they have paved spot for RV, and then they have grass picnic area. Just is it
I
not?
think it would be
possible?
better if somebody like Mr. Dawson would go and check those things out, because I'm a planner and I wouldn't necessarily know what I was seeing.
Right.
And I think that we expect the applicants to come to us with a proposal that will work.
Yeah, it just seems effective what their setup is.
What was the name of that park?
Boyce Cope, the BoiceCope. It's out at Flores Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And you think they have some layout there that might work with this?
Yeah, Mm-hmm. There's a paved spot where the RV goes, but they also have tent camping, but that's neither here nor there. And then next to it, they have, fire pit, picnic bench, grassy area for, not gravel full of grass and weeds, but a paved spot for the RV, and then a grassy area for, the other amenities.
That's the camp.
The campground. Mm-hmm.
That's a short stay.
I think that's a larger space than what we're talking about here, it seems
Well,
to me.
it is, but I mean, I think the distances and the widths are going to be the same.
Similar.
Yeah.
Um,
Just as a model potentially look at.
I wouldn't know what I was looking at. I mean,
yeah,
that's the honest
I
truth.
think there are any number of ways that could work.
Right.
If they come up with a plan that works, that
Mhm.
might be a good suggestion that they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion.
I don't know if we talked, if I said it, but in the conditions, but I recommend that they separate the RV space from the parking space. So they have, so that it's not a park, so it's not a, right now it's called a RV spot, or technically it's an RV, it's an RV space and a parking space. So if it was really clear what the RV space was and really clear what the parking space was, uh, and that would be number 5, I believe, or excuse me, number 7, where we talked about the parking spaces. And I think the applicant agreed that was a pretty good idea. It's really good to keep really clear about where the vehicles are going to be and where that hard surface area is going to be.
I have a suggestion.
Commissioner Burnt.
I think Mike is, but to perhaps supply photographs of examples. I mean, kind of like what Commissioner Head was suggesting, Flores Lake area. If, because we are in a space here and not able to go out and do like a, a tour, if you will, if there are some kind of photographs, examples that they could supply us with, that might be helpful.
I don't know that it would be helpful to me.
Not a requirement, just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can suggest it to them. I think that it's going to go, pictures are really, you can interpret a picture a number of ways, but a drawing is really clear with a measurement. You can, it's got a scale on it, and
Right, yeah.
so,
Right.
but it's a good suggestion.
It is.
Accompany the plot map.
So far, I have 14 conditions.
We have 14, is that all?
Good. Doing really well.
Any more? Are we?
I would like to make another suggestion to the applicant and to Civil West that out of respect for the neighbors, that the lighting not only be in compliance with dark skies, but be human scale. Because you could put up a giant power pole from the power company that's still in compliance with dark skies, but how is that going to be for the neighbors? So human scale lighting that's in compliance with dark skies.
That's a great suggestion.
Yep.
I don't know if we can require it, but
No,
yes.
just suggesting.
That's a good neighbor kind of a thing.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have something?
Sir, go ahead. Let's go ahead and speak, please.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep track of these things in my head as you're going, but they keep falling back.
We're writing it down for you.
But as far as the lighting, what is, I found.
Please use the microphone, sir.
Parks. Huh?
Use the microphone so they can hear us online too.
All right, okay. What's good in my experience, because I did a lot of traveling, did a lot of work, stayed in a lot of RV parks. What's really nice is for respect for the neighbors and for the occupants of the RV park, is that the power, where their power access is to have an individual light on every space and with a switch, because some people, they don't want light, others people do want light. They can turn it off or on.
That's a good
It
idea.
helps that way. And as far as the lighting with my neighbor, Mr. Leslie, could you put that up, Joseph,
map?
that deal, and I could just,
Sure.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. See, his house sits right off here.
Right.
So you're right, if you make it so you exit this way,
Mm-hmm.
it's way better than coming in the other safety wise.
For him.
But
Mm-hmm.
this way, if you make it so you can have a sign that you only turn one way, that you can't go out this way,
Mm.
the lights would not hit his house.
You're
They would hit the apartments.
okay. You're saying that the angle of the exit is sort of facing the apartments.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if we had to, we could put up a fence or something there so they have to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Just for
Okay.
respect for him.
Yeah. Thank you.
And the double stacking,
Mm-hmm.
that would never work. But most RV pads, they're out away from in front of the RV a little bit, individual ones.
Yeah.
And another thing that I was thinking about when we were discussing it was, as far as a concern with the parking, if we dropped one of the RV spaces off, what would that put us down to as far as parking? And I'm up to that. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it may be to where, cause demolishing the house only adds one RV spot in our proposal, and it isn't that important.
Well, I would encourage you to try and keep the same number of RV spots because we need housing. And
Yep, that's
by
true.
removing one RV spot, you remove some affordable housing. So as much as you can, I would hope you can still retain that.
Well, but that also has to be balanced with the parking issue.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
Agreed.
but it's a juggling thing. If you go to that with the affordable housing thing, one RV spot versus a 2-bedroom house.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2-bedroom house, I mean, I'll tell you guys, I'm not a real greedy person. Okay. And I only charge the person there $800 a month for that 2-bedroom house. And that is really reasonable in this world.
Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
is.
So it's, and an RV spot very maximum would be $600 a month.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I wish
Mhm.
I thought of a few other things that were brought up that I could maybe throw some input in, a little help.
Okay.
Well, we're going to
Forgot 'em.
There'll be another chance.
appreciate you,
Mhm.
your input here, and there'll be more conversations.
Okay, but
We'll give you a list of what we think.
yeah, Will's looking out for my back.
Okay.
And him and Christopher, but I stayed here at home an extra month. I should be in Mexico right now on a vacation. But I'm gonna leave maybe tomorrow. So
So you're saying you won't be at the next meetings?
I
Well.
probably won't, but I'll try that on the internet maybe
Yeah, that would
and
be-
handle that. If that'll help. But if I need to be here, I just need to be notified that I need to be here and I'll fly back, okay?
So these aren't
Okay.
conditions yet. These are things we want to see.
These are
on the
things,
site
right,
plan.
these are not conditions. These are things that we want to
So
see.
I'm hoping that the planning commission will just let us go ahead working with you and get these
Oh, right.
in front of them so
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
they can get ready for the December
So,
meeting.
yes, if we can just write this out and give it to them
Mhm.
without voting that
I
this
mean-
is what they are.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question for,
Then I would like to continue this discussion on the public hearing. I'd like to to carry it over to another meeting on December 5th. If I would entertain a motion that we do that.
Commissioner Head, I move to hold the meeting over until December 5th.
Commissioner Lovendall, second it.
It's been a motion and second. Discussion? Is it the
So
5th?
is this, are we carrying over a public hearing or a meeting or a decision-making meeting? I guess if
This would be a
it's going to be a public
public hearing, yeah. It'll be another public hearing.
Yeah,
Yep.
because they're going to bring new
Yep.
plans and stuff like
Yep.
that.
Do I need to clarify that in the motion?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Do I need to rescind my previous motion?
You,
You can clarify.
I amend it?
Remake it or whatever you want to do.
Commissioner Head, I move to remake the motion to carry over the public hearing until December 5th.
Continuation, I guess.
Continuation of the hearing.
Commissioner
December
Lovendall, I'll second it.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to have a continuation of the meeting until, of the public hearing until December 5th. Commissioner Lawton,
Yes.
Commissioner Head,
Yes.
Commissioner Lovendall,
Yes.
Commissioner Burnt,
Yes.
Mr. Thielen's yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you, Mr. Dawson.
Thank you all.
I have a
I
question.
have a lot of pictures of RV spots and RV park, and I'll try to, can I forward them to Joseph?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Do that. Thank you. You all have
Yep.
a good evening.
Thank
You
you.
have a good evening as
Have
well.
a good holiday.
You too.
All right. Eat some turkey. Okay, we are now on item 6, and it's quitting time, folks. So
What's items?
I want to burn through some of this stuff. Planning clearances approved since last meeting are on the minutes. We're in the minutes
Well, they're
somewhere.
an item at there should be the last page of the packet. I think, next page.
Oh, they're there. Okay, so they're there.
Yep.
Not too many. We don't need
It was only 2 or 3.
That's what it is. So I wanted, item 2, what is doable by the PC given city planning resources? And I wanted Crystal just to speak briefly. I know we've got a lot of things that we would like to do. Probably not many of them are going to happen anytime soon, but I want to keep them out and available because we are a public body. And I want the public to know that we're at least thinking about this stuff, and we will do what we can when we can, but we are limited in our resources. I know that anytime we mess with the zoning code, it takes letters out and lawyers have to look at things, and so it's tricky. Did I just say what you were going to say?
No, I just want to say that we we are limited in what we can do. We have a grant that about probably will fill our time along with the applications that come in for the new year. The way the grant is written, and you'll see a copy of it in January when we start. We haven't signed off yet. They haven't given us the sign-off sheets yet. But it's written so that when we don't have public hearing items, we can do workshops, and we will know ahead in time to proceed with that. We will maybe be able to put in a few things that are not necessarily housing related, but they're not going to have a lot of teeth. I mean, you can make a wildfire policy and put it into the comp plan, but the policy doesn't do a lot until you take it through a bunch of stages. And those stages would include making regulations that go into a zoning code about how you do fire safety and things like that. So, we can probably get a start that's kind of innocuous, but makes us keep it in front of us. But also the state of Oregon is doing that right now. They have a law that LCDC needs to start coming up with fire safety stuff that goes into codes and things like that. So at some point, there's going to be grants to do what needs to be done in our codes, unless unless we're not in a fire hazard area, which I can't imagine would be true, but who knows? I mean, it may only apply to certain parts of the state. So we don't know yet what money there will be, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of requirements for us to do. So, we're not going to get it in real heavy right now because we don't have time. We barely have time to do what we're doing. We don't have a city manager right now. We're not going to have a city attorney. We're tight.
So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be suggesting changes to the existing ordinance
Well,
for the
specifically the ones that we have to do that will
require
as
updates,
part of our
and then
it's money for housing.
right, potentially some extra.
few extra.
But these are recommendations for the city council, right, for changes to the ordinance.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, did you have anything you want to say on speeding on the city streets?
Oh, I
Yeah,
do
Greg.
actually. Yeah. Just really quick. So let's see. Diana Marmon, she lives over in the Hamlet. She reached out to me. She actually came to the city council to talk about the speeding issue as well. She has 2 children that work for ODOT, actually. So we're sort of exploring options for grants with them and kind of talking with them about various options. Apparently, we do have latitude in the city to change our speed limit. We don't have to go through ODOT anymore on the residential streets. That's kind of a separate issue. That's something that Diane wants to look into. On my part, I had an idea to this Traffic Logics, the company that has the traffic calming solutions. They make a black box that collects data on speed. It's not a driver feedback sign, so it doesn't say your speed is, it doesn't flash the speed, but all it does is collect data on speeding. They have several options, bidirectional, single direction, solar or battery. Anyway, I'm proposing that the city purchase one of these black boxes, and I did talk about this plan with Officer Perry, and he really, really likes the idea. And I'm assuming RJ, I know RJ is in support of this as well. And I haven't talked to Chief about it, but I can. But that we buy one of these black boxes, it would be $2,500 to $3,500, and move it around town in the spots where we know there are speeding issues to collect data to see where speeding is actually a problem. And it would do the same thing as the driver feedback sign, where it would collect, minimum, maximum, daily minimum, maximum, upper 85th percentile, and all the data. Maybe keep it in one spot for 1 or 2 weeks, collect the data from that spot, move it to another spot, collect data there. And then we would be able to make an informed decision about what we're dealing with, instead of kind of a subjective, like, that person looks like they're going pretty fast. I mean, I have actually filmed myself on my security cameras going 25 past my camera. So I know what it looks like on the camera because the speed is a little bit distorted. And I know that people are flying, but I'm not out there all day. And, but it is a citywide issue. And, as was evidenced by the Facebook thread. So I can, talk to city council about it at the next meeting to see if it's something that we could find the money for. I know that we had tens of thousands of dollars in grant writing money that we didn't spend last year. So maybe we can allocate some of that money to, this traffic calming.
Yeah, I think if you can get together with the police and maybe get a city councilor to, so you got a little bit of,
Well, I know Gary Burns is on board. He
Yeah.
was, yeah.
but yeah, you're working on it. That's good. Glad to
Yeah.
hear it.
So I want, I'm not really sure what the next step is. I've identified this thing that costs money, but it would be really helpful in the long run. And it would be, a tool that the police could use, moving forward, even after maybe we solve this problem someday. But so I'm not sure if I need to go to the city council to ask permission, or if we want to, the planning commission wants to make a move to sort of make this recommendation to go to the city council, or if we want to discuss it, or.
I think the
Don't
city
think-
council, oops.
Yeah, excuse me, go.
I was just going to say, I think going directly to the city council would be the best way to go, because they're the ones that are ultimately going to approve the funds and do that. And also they're part of enforcement. It comes under their purview.
Right.
That's just my thought.
Okay.
Who collects and analyzes that data?
It would probably be the police. I'm not sure about the black box, but most other of their devices are either cloud-based or Bluetooth-based. So to keep costs down for the black box, we would probably do Bluetooth. So the police would go use Bluetooth to download the data onto their phone and then share it that way.
So I'm curious if anyone has asked the city of Langlis, they've got the speeding device um, as you're supposed to slow down to 40.
That would be a state thing.
It is.
That's state.
It's ODOT
Okay,
because,
so I'm just curious how effective.
well, I'll tell you,
it
that's a
is.
good question. So Diane, I'm not sure if it's Diana or
It's
Diane.
Diana.
Diana. Okay, yeah, with the Buddha.
Yeah.
She has a Buddha. Okay, Diana mentioned that her son, who works for ODOT, said that the driver feedback signs are the most effective way to get people to slow down.
If they're,
Hmm?
unless they're just
Yeah.
recklessly out there.
Right. I mean, so there's always going to be those outliers, even if we put the speed humps or the traffic bumps, people are going to try to go around it. The motorcycles, we have a lot of motorcycles that speed on Jackson. If we get the ones that are separated, they'll just go through the space, so,
Well, I encourage you to get with as many people as you can in the city that are I think we're limited on the planning commission. I think you're,
Right.
as a citizen though, you are a powerful person and to get together with city council and
Sure.
the cops and.
I just didn't want to go over the head of the planning commission and go to the city council without bringing it up because it was, we'd been talking about it.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Adding criteria for CUP extensions.
I would like to say that Joseph and I can do that. We don't have to have,
Ooh.
we don't have to have it in the ordinance. We can explain, we can make a form
Okay.
for them to fill out that says exactly where they have to tell us exactly what they're doing and why they need an extension. Just as well as,
Uh-huh.
it can just be part of what we do, and I think we can get that organized.
Okay.
We've done that with people before. It's a little difficult with the Elk River development
That's what I was
because
gonna
they
ask you
don't
about.
really have very much to report.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so that was,
Various reasons. I'm not casting blame.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that seems.
I was super confused about that last time, and it was right in the beginning of, when I joined planning, but I'd been told that there was no basis for denying it. And so why is it even if no development has happened for 6 years, what is the basis for denying the extension?
I don't know if there is, but I guess, eventually we could put some language on there that would say, if there's no explanation for why we're doing this,
Right.
this can be
Or,
denied.
after 5 or 6 years of no progress,
But
maybe.
yet it was upheld by Luba
Right.
at that way. So I don't know, but we can try to get.
Right. Because it's not like they can't reapply when they have it together,
Right.
right? It's not saying they can't ever do it again. It's just like, okay, so much has changed in the last, let's hyperbolic example, no specific thing. So much has changed in the last 7 years. How can we not reevaluate an application from scratch? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's what we've talked about is
And
putting
yeah,
some
that
teeth
would
in
be-
that so we
that-
don't have an Elk River.
and
Not
that
that
is-
it's Elk River, that we just don't have these things going on and on and on.
And
But
that
if it's-
involves the lawyers and the.
But it's something
Well,
that
it's
in the
sometimes
long
it's
term,
DEQ, and it.
well,
That's
yeah.
what they say, and it could be true. I don't know.
Well,
I did,
It
Yeah.
probably is true if they're saying it.
yeah,
well,
I did
no
some
comment.
emailing and
It's-
it was inconclusive, let's just say, because
I understand.
It's on
Commissioner
the.
Thielen called, I emailed for months back and forth trying to get more
I called the
information.
DEQ. I know.
But
It's
yeah,
on the table. Let's just move on and it's on the
Okay.
table. We know we want to do it. It's not going to happen this week or this
Right.
month or this 6 months probably.
just saying, yeah, I think it's important.
It's important in
I
the
think that
long
these
term.
applications are reevaluated every so often, that we don't let a decade go by where we're not saying, okay, can you resubmit your application because it's been so long and so many things have changed and nothing's happened,
I've heard this is a statewide problem, actually.
Okay.
They're saying that in a lot of areas, plat maps, because they're doing big subdivisions and stuff, and that nobody gets them done in the year anymore, and that some of them go on years and
Mhm.
years,
Right.
and that they there's been a discussion of it on the planners clearing thing where we talk
Mhm.
planner listserv. So it's not just here.
Right.
Yeah.
Or,
I mean,
but
that doesn't.
sometimes there are other factors, that, yeah. But I really appreciate you putting this on here. I feel very heard. Thank you.
Greg did that.
Mhm. Thanks,
That's
Greg.
me.
Thank you, Commissioner Thielen.
My job is to get you, make sure you're heard. I want the whole town to be heard.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Comprehensive plan
I
update.
think we already kind of
Okay,
talked
we
about
did
that.
that. County, city, UGB agreement update. That's my thing, and I
Mhm.
want it. and
It's a
not
big
gonna
deal.
happen right now.
Yeah,
So
it's
I'm
a
just
big deal.
gonna,
Okay.
I'm just gonna
But
say
we
it.
need to watch for the money. We need to be ready so that if there's money for that, which some places have gotten recently for various reasons, then we should be ready to jump into seeing if the county will do it with us. They're having a great big lawsuit up in North Plains, Oregon right now about this, about UGB stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's
we're ready
interesting.
for that.
Thousand Friends is reporting on it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, I agree about that. Thank you.
Item 7, planning matters, appointment application, Susan Russell. There's an application here. Is there a motion so we can talk about it?
Do we need a motion to
Anybody
discuss
want
it?
to move that she get, so if somebody moves that we appoint her or elect her, then we can talk about it.
I'm really confused about the conflict of
Me
interest.
too.
I'm sorry.
I'm confused, sorry. I'm confused about the conflict of interest.
Do you want to make a motion so we can talk about it?
Um,
I'll move that we consider the application for planning commissioner from Susan Russell.
You don't need to.
Is that what you need?
I think he wants somebody to say yay or nay.
Second, okay, well,
Yeah.
why don't you just motion, okay, whatever.
That's because
Nobody wants to say that they're going to approve it because it's really unclear. I feel like the conflict
Yeah.
of interest. Yeah.
What is it?
So I looked through all of our stuff.
Hmm.
There's nothing in there about a conflict of interest with there's nothing in our codes that I could see about, so Susan Russell is Gary Burns' partner, long-term partner.
Gary
They're
Burns
not
from the
married, but
city
they live
council.
together.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so she asked me if she thought, she said she'd like to do it, and she asked me if there was a conflict of interest. And so I looked up, I said I'd get back to her. So I looked it all up, didn't think, I sent John Huddle an email. He said, no, there's no conflict of interest, except that Gary Burns would have to recuse himself on the vote to appoint her from the city council.
Yeah,
And I'm
makes
assuming
sense.
that if there was a hearing like we just did today, that he would have to recuse himself on the city
Well,
council.
maybe not. It depends on if she talked to him about it.
Right. Well, you
Yeah.
would kind of assume she would, although,
Not
I
always.
mean, knowing her and knowing him.
I never told my husband anything because he would go out to the golf course and,
Tell everybody.
well, he wouldn't realize he was doing it, but it's
Yeah.
like the golf course was the big gossip center. And it's like,
Right.
I'm not telling you anything.
So,
I guess, and I love Susan and I have great admiration for her, but I do have concern about optics and having a commissioner, having a planning commissioner and a city councilor, because we send all of our things up to, many things up to the council.
We've had experience with that before, and
Oh, I didn't finish.
Mayor Auburn was mayor, and his wife was on the planning commission.
Hmm.
That seemed to go okay for quite a few years. There was some rule at some time because the city manager's husband was on the planning commission. And that was seeming to cause some concern, and he did get off because of that. But
Hmm.
I don't think there's ever been, to my recollection, I might have forgotten, anything saying that a council member and a partner or spouse cannot be on commissions and things like that.
Do you see any any possible conflict of interest?
Well,
Because
I mean, they would have to, like in the land use thing, if they had discussed it or something with them, they would have to reveal that, or they would have to learn not to talk about those things.
Yeah, just like Thomas.
So
I just, I really, I hate to be but I just think that we know these two people, but it just seems a little close when we send so much to the council, so much, and so much of that, um, I don't know, it just seems like there could be.
well, what kind of things would you think that, like you say, we send
Like
so
we
much.
send,
So what, for
Like
example?
we did the short-term rental
Yeah,
ordinance, and
But those
we,
are not,
it's not judicial.
those are not judicial, those are not like land use things.
no, and I'm not
Those
speaking in
are
those
legislative
terms.
things.
I'm just,
Yeah, I understand.
okay, that's not what I'm speaking about. I'm just speaking about, um, and we kind of experienced a little bit of that, when there was a member of the planning commission finding out what was going on in city council's member and trying to influence what went on in planning. Right? So, okay,
That did happen.
that did happen. So I'm just, I just don't know. I just think that that's
The
potential is there.
is there.
Maybe not with this, but we're kind of setting a precedent, and I just it's a little cozy. I mean, and this is
I
not about
think
the person. It's about,
I think that Susan would be a really great addition to this, and I think I trust her to be really clear about her role. I think she would be a great addition and let the city council deal with it.
Mhm.
Uh,
I agree. And I think that her expertise and her knowledge of rental units and so forth, I think would really help us in our decision making to have that insight. So, and I know Susan and Gary, and they're
they're wonderful people.
We will all know them
extremely,
very well.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we have nothing but high regard for both of them. I mean,
Yeah,
but
and I
I'm
think
just
that's something to consider.
thinking that.
well, I think we should vote.
I don't see anything in the city.
I looked through everything, Jen.
Yeah, I don't
did
see
too.
anything in the
I did
ordinance that
We've all
prohibits
looked.
it.
Everybody's looked. Everybody's concerned
Yeah.
And why is everybody concerned if there's nothing to be concerned
because
about?
there's a potential.
There's
Right.
a potential.
And I trust, those are two of the people I trust in this town pretty highly.
I do too.
And that's just where that's my measure of trust. That's where you trust the people you trust, and I trust them. So anyway, I'd like to have a
Did Joseph
motion.
raising his hand?
Yes, sir.
Greg got it. We would need a motion to either approve or deny before we vote.
We need a motion to approve her
Approve.
on the planning commission.
I move that we approve the application for Susan Russell to be a member of the Planning Commission.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
I think that if she does get appointed, I would like to visit with her a little bit about planning matters and the fact that we don't reveal when there's a quasi judicial thing coming up, just because that would start out with that's a thing that is always of concern.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very defined. And
It's a
so
good idea.
it would be up to us to make sure that she understands that.
Right.
And the other ones would have to come if they came.
And it's part of my thinking and part of my position is what I was able to talk with Shayla when I was first chair here, is that we are welcome to talk to the city council about anything except these things.
When we're serving as a quasi judicial body.
Quasi-judicial, and they're not, and the council's not welcome to come here because it could go to them. But
Right.
everything else we can talk to them about,
Okay,
like everything on the planet, the short-term rentals, all that stuff.
Everything on the upcoming grant?
The
housing
grants,
stuff,
there's,
because
it's
legislative.
Right.
lots of stuff. But this RV thing, we can't even talk about it. So,
right.
yeah, so, she would have to have boundaries if she did, and I guess,
Yeah.
Crystal, if you talk to her and explain to her that would be a condition.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think as long as somebody understands, they're gonna try to follow it.
So would you suggest that we take this sort of case by case? If something should come up that.
Sure. Well, you always want to talk about it. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah,
have to
I
be,
mean, with,
Yeah,
specifically
yeah.
with Susan.
not like a reprimand or something, but just,
Yeah, I mean.
A reminder.
Concern
If we
yeah.
see that there is something that
Yeah.
could,
That could possibly go to the city council.
I
yes.
think it's
right.
always the best thing to
Okay.
just
Yeah. Well, I think,
be
yeah.
open. I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah. I mean, she's a smart girl. She'll get it.
She's tough. She won't.
Yeah.
She's tough.
All right, I'm going to call for the vote. Commissioner Lod,
Yes.
Commissioner Head,
Yes.
Commissioner Lovendahl,
Yes.
Commissioner Burnt,
Yes.
Commissioner Thielen's a yes.
Unanimous, yes, at 57.
Can I say something about this application? Joseph, did you notice that Jessica Ginsburg's email? Okay.
Yes, we are already in the process of
Okay, great.
correcting it.
Uh-oh, look out.
I
Okay,
just corrected all the state people to John Huttle.
other business.
Yeah.
Oh,
City planner
Uh-oh.
comments, House Bill 2450.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh, let's
I
cross it
don't
out.
know
Yeah.
why it's on there.
It's something that I got the day that I was making that. I looked at, read the title of it and thought it would be applicable. It's not applicable.
Okay,
yeah,
scratch
good,
that.
Joseph.
Live and learn.
You're a star.
Planning Commission comments. Anyone? Public considerations, all ye public out there. It's over.
Pretty sure it's just us.
Adjourned at 5:58. That clock is a few minutes off.
I know, and we will have to be in Florence tomorrow. So, you don't have to do it.
But I do.
You can be in town.